Conversion Disorder by Alex Jarvis Creasy and Braden Herman. Our case study was about a 20-year-old sales clerk named Rita. She was afflicted with fainting spells, and her symptoms included numbness and memory loss. She had no physical symptoms, and also she had no sensation. Even though there is no medical explanation, she is unable to move her left arm, and the whole left side of her body is numb. After reading over the case study and a lot of research, we were able to come up with a diagnosis. Using anxiety, memory loss, and numbness as primary symptoms, we were able to conclude that she was suffering from conversion disorder, which is a psychological disorder that affects your nervous system. It is classified as a somatoform disorder, which is a psychological disorder characterized by physical symptoms that suggest physical illness or injury. Symptoms cannot be fully explained by a general medical condition and are the direct effect of a substance and attribute to other mental disorders. This disorder started back in 1952 when it was called conversion reaction, and a new category of psychological disorder was made in 1958 when the conversion disorder was grouped in the hysteria neurosis category. It was recognized as a branch of dissociative disorder in 1980.
For a patient to be properly diagnosed, they have to show signs of an inability to speak. Also, they have to have some type of numbness in their body. Blindness is also a common occurrence, as well as tingling. So non-physical ailments are imperative for the diagnosis of conversion disorder, such as sensations and conflicts or stress before the condition even occurs. Aljar here. Characteristics of conversion disorder include complaints of numbness, specifically in body parts such as the arms and legs, or the face and neck. Many people would classify conversion disorder as the patient malingering the disease, which is making up symptoms that are not present after a traumatic event. This in fact is not correct, considering it is a psychological disease. The exact cause of conversion disorder is difficult to pinpoint because it's a psychological disease. It usually stems out from a sort of psychological conflict in someone's life or any stressful or discomforting event. Scientists say that conversion disorder comes from the part of your brain that controls muscles and senses. That may be associated with the disease. People that have conversion disorder or begin to develop conversion disorder may undergo long periods of stressful events in their lives, such as death or news that they cannot fathom. Medical illness is also a huge factor that plays in conversion disorder. Types of medical illness that people may have are dissociative disorders and or personality disorders, which is having more than one personality. Checkmate. When treating conversion disorder, it is particularly difficult considering that this disorder is largely physiological and not physical. The patient is not making symptoms up, but is also not a physical disorder. However, the patient does experience physical symptoms, such as muscle numbness, blindness, and inability to speak. Medical evaluations all come up negative because there is not actually something wrong with the patient, and in fact it's all in their head.
So as Aljar explained in the last slide, treating this disorder is very, very difficult. The only thing that might be able to help that we found out is therapy. That could be counseling, physical therapy, or hypnosis therapy. Also, a more stranger route for therapy is transcranial magnetic stimulation. This is pretty much to stimulate your brain with electric pulses, which it's a very experimental form of therapy and also dangerous. As you already know, this disorder is very difficult to diagnose, and that is because when the patients are brought in for testing, there's no physical problem with them. It's all in their head. It's referred to as the mystery illness because it has a very unusual set of symptoms that come along with the disorder. It's not uncommon for somebody to go long periods of time not being diagnosed properly by doctors, bouncing around from hospital to hospital, not knowing what they truly have.
A common question arisen about conversion disorder is what is the difference between hypochondriasis and conversion disorder? Both being somatoform disorders, in having the exact same symptoms, it is hard to tell the difference. But there's one that separates them completely, and that is that hypochondriasis is a preoccupation with fears about a real physical problem, where the severity of the illness is misconceived. The preoccupation will persist with disconfirming evidence. Conversion disorder is a person who persists with motor or sensory symptoms that cannot be medically explained. In fact, sometimes it is anatomically impossible. The symptoms are not intentionally feigned, and often the case is a traumatic event.
A famous case of conversion disorder was seen in Talladega Nights after Ricky Bobby experienced a car crash when he was, quote, flying through the air. This is not good. Ricky Bobby thought that he was paralyzed and was completely convinced that he could not move his legs or had any feeling in his legs after the accident. It was all in his head, therefore it was conversion disorder. This disorder is all psychological, therefore the only cure for this usually happens when patients snap out of it. This came when Ricky Bobby stabbed himself in the leg. In conclusion, Rita has the most difficult disorder to deal with and to diagnose. It's hard to tell when she might have another breakdown of spells, memory loss, numbness, and fainting. You can't predict it because it's all in your head and there's no signs leading up to the actual experiences. That's why from here on out her life is going to be more difficult than the average person. But after it's all said and done, all of the research and time that we've put into learning more about this disorder, it's still very clear that this disorder is a tricky one. To this day, it still has many medical officials and psychologists very confused about the actual causes and where this disorder actually comes from in our heads. Also, what makes us do this. It's hard to understand physical symptoms with no physical cause or meaning. And that's one of the main things that makes this a very hard one. What do you think about this, Al?
Thanks for asking, Braden. And the hard part about this disorder is we cannot assume that the patient is actually making up the disease, when in fact it's all in their heads. Treatment for this disease is hard because there's not many things you can do besides physical therapy, which would help their muscles loosen up and get them back on the track to recovery. And there's hypnosis, which can help them get out of the state that they're in. There are other types of therapy that can help them, such as shock therapy back in the early 1900s, but that proved unsuccessful. Physical therapy also can help get patients' motor skills back as well as their sensory issues. Counseling is also a really good factor, and most of the time when patients find out that their problems are not serious or life-threatening, then usually some of the symptoms go away of conversion disorder. It is important that the patients stay calm and have a positive outlook on it. Al here.
And Braden.
Now that you know about our case study, you can be more informed about conversion disorder.
We know you guys had to sort of sit through it and didn't have a choice, but thanks for watching anyway.
See you later.
Peace.
If not watching, it's listening.